a legend of one man who persuaded his friends to watch every Godzilla movie ever made. This world is on the brink of destruction. We need you now, Godzillavangelists! Godzillavangelists, a Geek Stew Network podcast. Produced and hosted by Ryan Sargent. Featuring Sam Schlenker and Joanna Brodecki.
Okay, my friends. Today I have a very simple yet very deep cold open. Would you take a job minesweeping?
It depends how much I'm getting paid.
Good money, apparently.
Yeah.
Would it actually be minesweeping, or would it be minesweeping with chance of Godzilla?
Godzilla appearing.
Big difference.
That's not where I thought the joke was going. I thought you were going to joke about playing Minesweeper.
No, I'm cool.
Wow, a throwback. I missed my.
Let's just call it Minesweeping with a negligible chance of Godzilla.
Yeah, I'd do it for money.
Yeah, it depends on the pay, I think. I think it's got to be...
Okay, so there's a number that's high enough to get you there.
Because, Ryan, I love the idea of the open sea, the salt air, out on the water.
Shooting a little gun.
Yeah, shooting a little gun on a little wooden boat.
It is charming, but I think before I could even think about it, my wife would chain me up to the radiator in the basement to make sure I couldn't do it. So.
See, I'm single. I'd have to tell my cat. He'd probably be upset. So.
I don't imagine he'd like becoming a sea cat.
I don't think so. At his age, maybe not. But I don't know. He moved to New York pretty late in life, so he's up for adventure.
Well, welcome back to Godzillavangelists. I'm Ryan, and I'm here with Sam and Joanna. And today we are talking about the surprise hit of the last winter, Godzilla -1.
Wait, was it a surprise hit?
Yeah, people didn't expect it to be big, because like Sam said, it was initially a limited release.
Yeah.
Although it seemed like they had plans to go wide, like maybe they got such good festival buzz, they're like, okay, this can do something. But yeah, it was not expected to do as well as it did. But yeah, people in real life and online keep asking about it. When is this episode coming? So if you're hearing this, it's here.
Woohoo! And if you had to hunt to find a version with English subtitles, if you didn't see it originally in theaters, so did we. So Good luck. It is out there. It does exist.
Yeah, what's up with that, Toho? Why don't we have a Blu-ray yet? But yeah, we didn't actually mean to be this late. It just happened this way. But in any case, this is your one spoiler warning. If you somehow haven't seen it yet, go do that. Because we're going to cover the whole thing now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have much behind the scenes on this movie, which is too bad because it seems interesting. I'd love to know more about it.
We're waiting for that Blu-ray with bated breath.
I'll watch all the special features. I promise. I won't just leave the shrink wrap on and put it on the shelf like half of my Blu-rays. But yeah, I'm pretty much ready to go on to the synopsis unless you guys want to tease your thoughts here.
I don't want to tease. I just was curious about the budget and just looked it up. And if this article is correct, it looks like it was $15 million, which feels crazy, right?
Yeah.
What? How? How did they do that?
It's insane.
Because he looked good. Godzilla looked really good.
Yeah, there are stories that the effects crew was way overworked, which might have something to do with it.
Okay, so that's where you save your dollars.
Yes, but regardless, even if we doubled the budget, it's presenting remarkably well against any modern American movie at a much lower price tag. It's
Right,
wild.
like this one quotes comparatively Guardians of the Galaxy, one of those 250 million.
Well, one thing I will say that I've experienced, or at least seen, witnessed is the word. I haven't experienced. No one's given me $15 million, unfortunately,
Yet.
which is why I have to keep minesweeping. The crazy thing is that there are movies that cost $10 to $15 million that feel like big movies. And there are also movies that feel like tiny movies. And I won't say which one, but there's a movie that was kind of being made by the same studio as the one that I'm working on right now. Kind of, they were made at the same time, and they share a similar budget. But the other one is what you would think is a very tiny movie. And the reason it cost as much as it did is because the star of the movie and the writer of the movie each got $20 million. So you go, okay, well, there's $40 million in above the line people. So it can be done. It truly is like how much is going on screen, whether it's being made union. There are lots of things. I will say that, yeah, that is $15 million for this seems, boy, that's tight. Like, it seems like you are going to have a lot of overworked effects people. But that's kind of true. Effects people get squeezed in everything. That's the one thing where it just seems like no one ever gets enough money for that stuff. I just got to ask, I started the movie and we saw like a 1940s fighter jet. And I said, whoa, hang on. Based on the title of this movie, I thought this was set 1 year before Jesus was born.
Sam, have you...
Now I've watched that movie.
Question, have you been waiting since this movie was released to make that joke?
Absolutely,
How
yes.
long has it been festering in the background?
Yeah, that's right. I've had that written. That's my only note I've written, and I wrote it. The moment the movie was announced, I've had that in the bag. It's taken us so long to record this podcast that I had to blow the dust off of my one joke in my notepad.
And what a great one it was.
Yeah,
it was a good joke, but you know what? It put in my head how the most recent Predator movie is in the 1700s. In the Native American cast. Like, they should do Godzilla movies that take place in the past. Like in ancient Egypt or the age of piracy or something.
Wait, there's an idea. All right, Ryan, pitch it.
That one's free, Toho / Legendary.
That would be very funny when, how in this movie there's a moment, we get a moment where they go, we should try shooting it. And then they go, that doesn't work. We got to come up with something bigger. Like, if you do it far back enough, it's like, yeah, we should try shooting arrows at it. And then they go, well, yeah, that's it. That's all we got. We're very screwed. What? I guess we die now. Yeah, that's all right. Hopefully in 1,000 years.
But there was a lot of heart. Yeah, a lot of heart in the performances.
Yeah, you couldn't put Godzilla in these older stories, but if you had an appropriately scaled kaiju, maybe.
It's just Ryan wearing a Godzilla suit. He's like, cast me. Yeah.
It's a kaiju that is impervious to the arrows, but if the arrow had a really big arrowhead, that's the oxygen destroyer. It's like, oh man, yeah, we need to make a bigger arrow.
There's the answer.
Exactly. All right, let's do the synopsis. All right, so this one I unabashedly plagiarized from the Wikipedia version, but I touched it up, made it my own.
It's all right. Wikipedia doesn't count as a source, so you're good.
You can't add that in your bibliography, Ryan.
So as far as the world is considered, I made this up. Okay, sound effects at the ready. In 1945, near the end of World War II, kamikaze pilot Koichi Shikishima lands his plane at the Japanese base on Odo Island. Lead mechanic Takibana deduces that Shikishima had fled from his duty by feigning technical issues. That night, Godzilla, a large dinosaur-like creature. Why is that in there? Why did we need to describe Godzilla? We all know what Godzilla is.
They didn't know yet.
I don't know, Ryan. You were the one copy editing this.
Yeah, I should have paid more attention. Attacks the garrison. Shikishima attempts to shoot the monster from his plane, but freezes up and is knocked unconscious.
Oh, I retract my machine gun sound. He didn't shoot.
I mean, they did shoot him with a machine gun, but not the plane gun.
Right.
So you're
keep it in.
And then here's him being scared. Oh, no, I can't do it. No.
Takibana, the only other survivor of the attack, blames Shikishima for failing to act. As the war ends, Shikishima returns home to find his parents were killed in the bombing of Tokyo. Plagued by survivor's guilt, he begins supporting a woman, Noriko, whose parents also died in the bombing, and an orphaned baby, Akiko, whom Noriko rescued. He later finds employment aboard a minesweeper tasked with disposing of naval mines from the war. He befriends its crew, young upstart Mizushima, gruff Captain Akitsu, and polite former engineer Noda. Meanwhile, Godzilla is mutated and empowered by the United States nuclear tests at Bikini Atoll. It sinks USS Redfish and destroys several other ships en route to Japan. Unaware, Shikishima successfully builds a middle-class life for himself, Noriko, and Akiko, but resists becoming close to them. In May 1947, I was really hoping there would be a sound effect for resisting becoming close to somebody. I wanted to know what that would sound like.
No, don't become friends with them.
I'm not your dad. Okay? I told you.
In May 1947, Shikishima and his minesweeper crew travel to the Ogasawara Islands and are tasked with stalking Godzilla's approach to Japan. A little wink, because the Ogasawara Islands is supposed to be where Monster Island is.
Ooh.
Fun Easter egg.
Oh, yeah. They release a mine into Godzilla's mouth and detonate it to strong effect, but the beast quickly regenerates. The heavy cruiser Takao then engages Godzilla, but is quickly torn apart by the enraged monster. After returning to Tokyo, Shikishima opens up to Noriko about his past and his guilt, closing the rift between them.
I'm guilty. I feel the guilt.
I feel the guilt, baby. Days later, Godzilla makes landfall in Japan and attacks Ginza, where Noriko works. She narrowly survives the initial attack and reunites with Shikishima. Enraged by tank fire, Godzilla obliterates much of the district with its heat ray, killing tens of thousands. Noriko pushes Shikishima to safety from the blast wave, but is caught in it herself and blasted away. Devastated by the loss, Shikishima vows revenge. Frustrated by the government's inaction, Noda works with Navy vets to devise a plan to destroy Godzilla. They plan to lure it out to Sagami Bay and use special gas tanks to rapidly compress and decompress Godzilla in an ocean trench.
Oh yeah, here, yeah. This Ryan, you got to do him. Yeah. He goes down
Coming
first,
back
right?
up.
Yeah. There you go. Shikishima recruits Takibana to repair a broken-down jet fighter. He plans to kill Godzilla in a suicide attack by flying into its mouth and detonating explosive charges on board. He leaves Akiko in the care of his neighbor Sumiko before Godzilla resurfaces. Shikishima lures Godzilla to the trap set by two destroyers. Godzilla survives the initial plunge and then breaks free before being forced back up. With the help of a fleet of tugboats led by Mizushima, the ships haul Godzilla to the surface, giving him serious injuries from barotrauma. Godzilla prepares to destroy all the vessels with its heat ray, But Shikishima crashes the plane into Godzilla's mouth and destroys its head, causing the energy of the heat ray to tear its body apart. The crew celebrates as Shikishima ejects from the plane and parachutes to safety, having used an ejection seat that Takibana installed, imploring him to let go of his guilt to continue living. Upon returning home, Sumiko gives Shikishima a telegram, which leads him to a hospital where he reunites with Noriko, who miraculously survived. Meanwhile, a chunk of Godzilla's flesh begins to regenerate as it sinks into the ocean.
Damn, I wish I had seen this one in theaters.
It was super cool.
Big fucking mistake.
Ryan, I think your synopsis skipped the part when Shikishima first meets Noriko and is really racked by guilt. She cheers him up by singing a Mamma Mia song. Did you skip that part? When she says, "Shikishima, tell me what's wrong."
Oh, God.
Sam,
Help
not to
me.
brag, but I was at the ABBA Museum a mere 8 days ago in Stockholm,
Really?
okay? Not to brag, and just for one brief aside, yes, they do have you audition to be the 5th band member and then have a space where you can go on a stage and dance next to the 4 avatars of the band members, and strangers start clapping for you and going, "I've been cheated by you." So, just a light plug for the ABBA Museum if you're ever in Stockholm.
This episode is sponsored by the ABBA Museum.
The ABBA Museum. Okay, where to start? I don't even know.
Yeah, let's start at the beginning.
A very good place to start. Okay, that was a plug for my musical theater people. All right, a lot of plugs today.
This is actually a musical theater episode now.
Yeah, we're like Riverdale. We get close to the end and we decide, I know what'll really shake things up. Really get the fans excited.
Joanna, any opportunity we can convert a plot point of this movie into an ABBA song, I'm fully ready to try it.
Okay. All right, I'm ready.
All right,
Let me take one more sip of coffee, make sure I'm fresh.
Count enough audience members. If you correctly named the number of ABBA references at the end of the episode, you win a prize.
Yeah, and it's a great prize too, so lean in.
Okay, so yeah, we start out on Odo Island. And that first appearance of Godzilla roaring out of the darkness is awesome. It's probably the scariest Godzilla's ever looked.
I mean, yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. He looked freaking amazing. He was so much more agile than he sometimes is. Like something about his neck really being able to rotate around on all of its vertebrae. I feel like he is not. Sometimes he has to turn with his shoulders. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that's really neat.
It's interesting. This is only the second time we've had a non-mutated Godzilla, and yeah, it's like definitely him, but it's recognizably different. Like you said, it's more mobile, obviously a lot smaller.
I this might be controversial, but couldn't you say this is the most Godzilla has ever looked like 1998 Godzilla? Just saying.
In a way, there are similarities. They're both mean machines.
Yeah, lean thigh boys. You know what I mean?
Lean mean fun machines. I think too, just from the first scene, obviously we know, given the acclaim of the film and all the buzz around it, but I think like even just the first scene before he shows up, like I feel like the 2 actors playing Shikishima and Takibana just did a really great job of kind of holding the weight of the situation without saying much. Basically just saying good writing, good filming, of not showing too much, but like really conveying things very quickly. I think I too didn't want to look too much into things before watching, and I think at first I was like, oh, it's going to be one of those movies where I just assumed that it was like more based in present day. So I was like, oh, it's going to be one of those movies where, oh, it's, we start with a flashback and then we jump ahead. But I was actually very happy that didn't happen and that it just stuck within that story. But yeah, right off the bat, I think great, fantastic storytelling on their end.
It's a strong choice, obviously, to tie it back to World War II, which is, the genesis of Godzilla as an idea, really. And you're right, that opening conversation where Takibana is like subtly accusing him of faking something being wrong with the plane, but he doesn't like outright come out and say it, or like, I'm gonna get you arrested. It's
Right.
more
And then at the
interesting
same
and
time,
tense that way. Yeah, and then of course we have the massacre where Godzilla, like King Kong, funnily enough, seems to not want to eat anybody. He just wants to bite down on them until they die and then spit them out.
Yeah, he loves...
Because all the bodies seem to be intact.
Yes. He loves flinging them in the air. He likes to just kind of grab them like a golden retriever, grabs it just lightly in his mouth, and then just flip them up into the air, and see where they go. Does it a few times. It's his favorite move.
Yeah. It really is. And it's interesting, of course, that's the big inciting incident of the movie, sets up the conflict. It's Shikishima failing to fire on Godzilla. And you think throughout the rest of the movie, would that have stopped him or not? At that point, maybe you could have killed Godzilla that way. Then you sort of feel haunted by it in the same way Shikishima would.
I think too that just again in terms of maintaining the kind of gravitas of everything happening all throughout the film, even after that scene too, the two of them who are left, I feel like not that we totally skip over it in some movies, but I feel like with this scene you really felt like the grieving that everyone was feeling and shock that everyone was feeling in a way that sometimes you get it, but I don't know, maybe like the acting isn't as strong or they don't give it as much of a beat. But I feel like it just was very present throughout the film, which ended up leading to a much stronger storyline.
Yeah, that's another great interaction because you obviously understand Shikishima's fear and hesitation, but you also feel Takibana's righteous anger and bafflement. Just like, why didn't you? And so you feel for both characters. It's a gray conflict, which is always more interesting than a black and white.
Exactly.
Fun fact while we're on this early Godzilla, this is like the one thing I know about this movie. The way that Godzilla looks in this movie is based on another movie this director made called Always Sunset on 3rd Street 2, which is the Sunset on 3rd Street is a series about like a writer in 1950s and 60s Japan. It's kind of like a dramedy, like with all the people in the neighborhood. But anyway, the relevant part is in the second movie, there's a scene where the writer is stumped for ideas and he's talking to a kid and he sort of playfully rips off Godzilla to try to impress the kid. And you actually see the scene he's describing for like 20 seconds. So Godzilla is in that movie and he looks a lot like he does in this movie.
We love a little rinse and repeat. When you got an idea, just keep it going.
Yeah. Sam, what did you think of the setup?
I think it's really good. I'm just going to give my thoughts on my general thoughts on the movie. A long time ago, in the mere infancy of this podcast, Ryan and I did a podcast comparing various Godzillas to James Bond movies. I can only describe this in the way I felt watching the James Bond movies. I think we compared a different one to Casino Royale. This is the Casino Royale of the Godzilla series, where it's a prequel where they went, you know what? What if we just had a really sound, clean idea with themes and just like made a really, the vision can be really, really clear and distinct, and we can just follow through with really good execution and just make a movie that from the first minute to the last minute is very clear and clean and nice. And like, that's what I was feeling with this. It's just like, and it's also a prequel, which is similar. Similarly, in 2006, when I was but a 14-year-old who had seen the last several James Bond movies, we were just in the muck with these Pierce Brosnan movies that were just so bad. And even the one, it was 3 straight bad ones. And before that, it was Goldeneye that everyone likes so much and I don't really like. That's my Shin Godzilla. The 3 bad ones are the animes. We're in a bad era for James Bond. We're in a bad era for Godzilla. And then this one that's just clean and has a point is really just, again, just like it's just clear storytelling. It's really nice.
Yeah.
And I actually went in with tempered expectations because everyone had said, oh my God, Shin Godzilla, you're going to love this. This is the best. And I didn't like it. I didn't dislike everything about it, but I wasn't a big fan.
Right.
And then this was like, oh yeah, here we go. But I did really keeping my expectations in check. I don't want to say low because I had a feeling it would probably be pretty good, but in check. And then just right out the gate, it's like, oh yeah, cool. Like a main character who's dealing with survivor's guilt. We set it up. It is just very clean. It's just very clean. I really liked it quite a bit. And the scene does a lot for that. It's a good main character for this era. It's just clean themes that make a lot of sense for World War II. It's a great main character for this. Good job, guys. This was nice.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously sad that we're ending the main run of the podcast this year, but I feel so glad that we're able to go on two really enjoyable Godzilla movies and two very different ones, just like showing the whole spectrum of what he can be. So yeah, it's a good feeling to have this right now.
Yeah, I very much agree. And I think just if we could maybe dive a little into the characters, I think Sam, like you said, he was a great character. The actor was perfect at playing him. Like, I think he was just a classic underdog story, and you were rooting for him the whole time, even when you were like annoyed by him for like keeping so much in. You understand that it's because of all of this trauma that he's holding, and I don't know. I don't know why I'm like not coming up with words right now other than to say like I really fucking like this actor that was playing this guy.
No, it's
I
all
want
right.
to watch more of his stuff.
Yeah, it's a great performance. I don't really think there's a lacking one. I can't think of it off the top of my head anyway.
I don't know. That little girl really didn't bring it. The baby really dropped the ball there.
Look, great performance for a baby.
Yeah, I was kidding.
She could really cry on command.
Wow, yeah, that was quite a cry.
Yeah, she could really go for it. They said fake it till you make it, and she went for it.
When she cries, she even in that one point late in the movie, like opened up to camera, she starts crying and just immediately turns her face to camera to cry, and it's like, man, what?
Yeah,
knows your marks. That's amazing.
I think
that's good.
Yeah, also like the ensemble cast, Noriko. I think the only thing I was bummed by is she came in so strong, like kind of sassy and comedic, right? Like she was really kind of holding her own, and then as the movie went on, there was a decent amount of time where she was just kind of like caretaker homemaker. But I know that could have also been like kind of reflective of what she was expecting her role to be of that time period. But that was I was like, because at first when she came in, I was like, oh, thank God, she's so fun to compare to this boring, stressed dude who we're gonna have on screen the whole movie, But I thought she was like a really nice balance to him. And then I thought the neighbor lady too just was like, well, it wasn't funny at first, it was very sad, but just her kind of never letting him up and always like harping on him. I just appreciated her character too.
Yeah, that's a really good example of characterization too, because in that first scene you just like obviously you sympathize with her, but you don't like her. You don't want her to spend more time in the movie putting more Shikishima down. But then, like, gradually you grow to love her because she opens up and becomes helpful.
Like, kind of if you think about it, so many characters in the film had their own little arc. And that maybe, too, is what feels different from some of the other films in the franchise, where there's, like, maybe the one main character who's having this arc, and a lot of the other people are just kind of on the side, like, talking heads. But, like, the young crewman coming back at the end with the tugboats, like, he has his whole arc. And then Noriko being like, hey, I'm going to like go get a job. And then she's ultimately the one who pushes them out of the way so that he can be saved. Like each of them had their own arc within the film, which I think made it, I always love to see.
Yeah. But before we leave Noriko, I like her a lot too. And obviously I'm a dumb man, but I've read stuff about like how it's more difficult to show soft, powerful women. Not like it's easy to give a woman a gun and have her blow the bad guys away, but it's harder to like show how a caretaker can also be powerful and self-assured in their own way. And I think they did a really good job with that because she's very supportive and kind-hearted, but not in like a meek or submissive kind of way. She's proactive and like taking care of people. She's like, all right, what's wrong? What do I need to do to make sure that you get what you need?
And I think her line when she says, I found a job and I'm going to go to work. And he was like, this is so sudden. And she's like, not for me, it isn't. I think that was a really strong line too, of just like, yeah, duh, of course she's been like planning this and thinking about how she could get to this point for probably months now in order to be able to do this while still having someone to take care of the baby. We also love when a motley crew of pals is pulled together on a ship. In this film or other films, anytime a crew is on a ship, I'm probably going to be into it. But this one in particular, I especially liked this crew. I loved the wavy-haired Doc, who's like so low-key about things, and then is suddenly like leading the charge to kill Godzilla. What a pivot.
Yeah. It's really cool because even that's a character thing because he's like trying not to talk about the past or what he's done because he's trying to forget the experience. And then like the captain distrusts all authority because he never got much communication or planning when he was in the army. And the kid never shipped out. So like popular culture is telling him that like he's less experienced, less bold, less important than the people who fought for Japan. So they were all disappointed by the war in different ways.
Yeah.
It's cool.
And just the light comedy of him being like, again, not too much comedy in this film and not that it was needed, but just the light comedy of like, yeah, and there's going to have a boat that can detect mines and like stop us from reaching the mines. And then he shows up and it's just like a wooden paddle boat. He's like... And they're like, this is in fact the high tech that will save us. He's like, okay, great.
This is not me. I think this is intentional. I don't think this is just me being like, this is like this. Like, I think this had to have been a conscious choice. But I like that this movie just for 20 minutes becomes Jaws.
Yeah,
like that is just Jaws. Like it even down to the being on a tiny boat fighting Godzilla and shooting an explosive in his mouth. Like I think they were like we gotta do that for 20 minutes. It makes a lot of sense for the story of the movie, and it's nice because you can. Something I like about what they chose to do here is by making it a prequel, people don't know anything about Godzilla, so you can do a scene where a bunch of people are on a very small boat, way underprepared for dealing with the Godzilla, and it can be a little survival scene. Whereas if it's a current sequel, and everyone knows what Godzilla's deal is, you just can't do a scene like that. So there was just they again just very like cleverly plotted for again singular vision, just very very clear what they were going for, and that was a really enjoyable little sequence and good escalation.
I think that whole entire sequence of them escalating just within the four of them, and then the boat coming up too. Like for me personally, when that big boat was shooting at him, and then when he started taking down that ship, that was like one of the coolest visual scenes for me. I thought he looked awesome. The boat exploding. That is one of the moments I was furious for not seeing in theaters.
It really makes you think like, how are they gonna beat Godzilla? It seems hopeless.
It just felt like it was like taking its time too in that whole, like it was like, okay, like yeah, now we are gonna have like 20 minutes of Jaws movie and we're just gonna like sit in it and take our time with it to get our point across.
That was actually the sequence where I thought the visual effects were maybe my favorite of the movie. I think the opening scene, it was interesting when in that opening scene, I liked the ideas behind all the visual effects. Like I just loved the choices that were made, but there were times in that opening scene with the CGI Godzilla where I was like, yeah, but you can tell this is a lower budget movie. I was like, sometimes I'm a little surprised. I was a little surprised that it won the Oscar for it, honestly, watching that opening scene, because I was like, well, I love the idea. And I don't really feel strongly about like rewarding the most expensive technical achievement every year. But this is a lower budget movie and this isn't the finest technical visual effects I've seen. But I think it was better. I think that all that water stuff was better, and there are so many good choices. I think kind of similar to Shin Godzilla, where they're making him look like a man in a suit, and making stuff look like miniatures, and shooting stuff in ways that harkens to that, where it's kind of grounded. It rather than being like the Godzilla versus Kong American movie, where it's like, this is just, what if it was all as real as humanly possible? How photoreal can we make this? It's like, what if we give it the feel of miniatures, like a man in a suit with a small boat, and and then on top of that, really good like water and nice stuff. But I think this was the point where I was like, oh yeah, you know what? Credit to these, $15 million movie winning best visual effects. That's nice. Like I like it. I kind of started to buy into or kind of understand what they were going for more in here.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the win was just worth it to hear Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito say Godzilla. So now I can add that to my collection of people saying Godzilla.
Yes. Yeah. Did you ever expect Godzilla to be an Oscar-winning franchise?
In my heart, I did.
In your heart, you were holding out for it. When they brought all those Godzillas on stage, amazing.
Yeah, I think
that was amazing.
I think Japan kind of regretted not putting that up for best foreign film for their nominee, because
they didn't
if
put
they
it up.
had, I feel like they might have won it.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't
Although
realize
people
that
did
they
like
didn't.
Zone of Interest a lot. But...
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm not sure that it would have won, but it would have been really cool to see it nominated for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, I love the little found family, or I guess multiple found families that are created in this movie. They're so adorable. I just immediately want them to be okay and come together and live a nice life.
If you guys were on that crew, which crew member would you be? Like, of those four?
I mean, like, I'd love to say that I would be one of the other ones, but just because of my inexperience in anything naval, I would have to be the kid.
Yeah, unfortunately, I had the same thought. I wish I would want to be one of the others, but I think I'd be the kid, which makes me more like the kid because I'd want to be one of the others. It's
exactly
perfect.
See, I think I'd be the kid because I'd be like kind of scrappy and annoying on the ship, not necessarily because of my lack of experience, but just because of the general vibe that I would bring to the. But I would love to be the doctor if I could, obviously, as the doc, I guess, as always. But maybe I'd actually be the captain. I liked his kind of bemoaning the government and just general don't give a fuck vibe.
Yeah, vibes wise, I'm Doc, but the kid. That's where my experience level is at. I guess I'll put it that way. Yeah.
But Ryan, it's all pretend. It's called acting. Didn't you know, Ryan? Let me tell you something. None of these people were in the war in World War II. Okay, what?
Crazy. Next, you're going to tell me that Robert Downey Jr. isn't really Iron Man.
No, well, he is Iron Man. So
Okay.
don't worry. That is not a facade. One other quick thing about this 20-minute kind of sequence. I think, too, for me, that I'm always like, the less science in the Godzilla movie, the better. I think from a science perspective, this film also did a good job of, in that scene, there wasn't a cutaway to the boardroom. Oh, we're going to send out people, blah, blah, blah. It was just like them kind of figuring out on the spot why they, as this little wooden boat, were out there and what was happening. And like, I think the scientist may be conveying one line about what he knew to just get it across quickly. And I think I prefer that so much more when it's just like when the science is just explained in real time and quickly through the people like figuring it out or actually acting on it versus like, we got to do this and this and this and this. And then even at the end when, the scientist was explaining what they were going to do, he was quick and efficient at it. He was explaining it in a simple way to people who like weren't going to be fully in the weeds on it.
Right.
So A+ on science explaining it for this one. For my personal
Joanna's
viewing
Bill
of it.
Nye Award.
Yeah.
Understandable science.
Yeah, that's really what it is.
No, you're right. That's almost always the best choice in a movie. I think you can make like more complex sci-fi movies, but it's tough and you kind of limit your audience. So usually this is the better choice and they did it.
Yeah, and it doesn't slow down the action then. Every time you got to cut away to headquarters, you're slowing down the pace.
I actually, this is jumping forward, but I really liked their final plan of the, pressure thing. Because one, it feels very 1940s. That's like an incredibly clever scientific plan for the 1940s. And it's also so janky because it involves them wrapping Godzilla in some bubble machines. It's great. Yeah. I actually really enjoyed that. That's maybe my favorite. I mean, outside of course, feeding King Kong juice. Other than poison juice berries, this is and possibly balloon takeover. This was my favorite, kind of Godzilla disposal plan.
Yeah, stop the monster plan. Yeah, it's it's like the right. You're right. It's the right amount of janky and clever. It feels right for occupation Japan government in 1948 or whatever year it was.
I also was like, damn, pretty impressed by how these civilians are able to get all these goods. Like, how'd they get those multi-million-dollar ships? Pretty cool.
It's true.
Yeah, I mean that they say that was like the only thing the U.S. was willing to give them were the old decommissioned ships because they were afraid.
Can you even imagine though the states being like, I don't know, but good for them. Good for them.
Yeah, because they were afraid that the Soviets were going to see them moving ships as like a decoy attack on the Soviet, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, America is just like, yeah, Japan, we had nothing to do with this Godzilla thing. You just solve your own problems. You got this. We didn't create Godzilla and then also strengthen him with our tests. Yeah.
That wasn't us.
Interestingly, I believe this is the first movie to explicitly show Godzilla's mutation, and the first one to show his regenerative powers in like a direct way, which is pretty cool as a nerdy fan.
Wait, no way that's the first time. Really?
I believe so. I think this is the first movie with a shot showing part of Godzilla mutating that close on his eye.
On his eye, because that was crazy. That was terrifying.
And there have been obviously discussions of his regenerative powers, and I don't know, maybe there were like scars appearing and disappearing, but obviously having half of his face blown off and then coming back together is a much more vivid way of showing.
It was so gross.
Godzilla's power.
It felt like Alien. I don't know if that happens in the movie Alien, but it felt spooky to that level.
This whole time, Godzilla's had regenerative powers?
Yes. So the first time it was explicitly mentioned is in Godzilla vs. Violante. They finally explain why, like, tanks and shit don't work on him. He is taking damage, but it's so quickly being healed that it doesn't matter. Which you could kind of headcanon into the older movies. But yeah, from then on, that's been their explanation, that he has a extremely strong regeneration. This is the first one to, like, really show it on screen.
I just want to say, if you're a scientist out there, you've got a mutant that has regenerative powers. You could so easily put adamantine claws on this guy and make him Wolverine.
Just coat Godzilla's skeleton in adamantium. Hey, that's that Mechagodzilla movie. They did it.
Ooh, you're right. I genuinely never put that together.
Yeah.
Wait, I want to just give you a moment of applause for that very niche call out to adamantium, a thing that I had never heard of, that I thought maybe it's actually a real science thing, and it is in fact only for Wolverine. So
yeah, that's right.
For that call out.
I wanted to make it very clear that every once in a while I'll just, take shots at Ryan and be like, I'm not a nerd, but I am. And in case anyone was wondering.
Wait, Sam, I have to further this. The title of this article is called "What is Adamantium? Marvel Science for Noobs" from Laser Boost. What a great one. Wow, learning more today.
Well, it's right up there with all the great fake elements, unobtainium, Tex-Mexium.
I heard there's an Element song for it. Go ahead, boys, kick us off.
Oh, is it
The
Bolognium
fake ones.
in The Simpsons? The
Bologna?
Yeah, I
Oscar
think
Mayer
that-
the Oscar Mayer
Yeah.
branded periodic table.
That's right.
Bolognium.
It's interesting that they moved the Godzilla timeline up so that he attacks while Japan is still under occupation, which initially had me worried because like Shin Godzilla had kind of a nationalist tone to it, and that was what I thought it was setting up to be, which is like we can't count on America to protect us. We have to do it ourselves. But that wasn't really it. It ended up being like about as critical of Imperial Japan as you can be, as at least as I understand it as an outsider,
Yeah.
which was nice. But it's interesting just thinking about like the why of why they moved it up 6 years or whatever, and what that changes about the story.
From its first sighting.
Yeah,
I guess would they be harking? I mean, because the way they were setting it up is that Godzilla has been around for a while, right? Because on that island,
yeah, it was kind of the same in the first movie where on Odo Island there's this legend of Godzilla, which is
Right.
what they named this thing after. But it's just sort of an unclear origin, some kind of mutated dinosaur, or is there some kind of mythical connection? But yeah, it's interesting to move it back to when Japan was under occupation and didn't have its own government and
Yeah.
was a little less developed.
I'm gonna say something controversial, and not everyone agrees with me on this, but that's the kind of conversation that I never care about. You found a story to tell about Godzilla that makes so much internal sense and is so interesting. I like this whole kind of like, well, what is the continuity of the entire timeline on basically anything? I'm like, I don't who cares? It's fine. This is good. You made a good thing. Are people like at home? And the answer is yes. There are probably people who are like, wait a minute, this betrays, and I kind of understand it. I'm sympathetic to it, but not empathetic to it because I just don't. I've never felt that. I've always been like, that's not a conversation that I have any interest in having. If you made like, oh man, it changed the continuity by 6 years. I'm like, yeah, all right, that's fine. This was good. We have a good thing, guys. We have a good thing.
Yeah.
Sam goes, there are people, on the internet who will be asking. Ryan literally just asked the question seconds earlier. He's like, who cares?
Well, I'm going to distinctivize, and I think Sam knows this, but I wasn't talking about like, oh, let's talk about the timeline implications. I'm just saying,
I like your guys' voices.
if you're setting a historical setting, when you move it back, it changes things, and that's interesting from a storytelling perspective.
But I think that's in fact why they had to, right? To show that exact moment of when he left his kamikaze position and then kind of 2-in-1 failed at achieving what he was supposed to.
Yeah, I guess they didn't want to leave him in limbo for too long. Like if it was 1954 when Godzilla came back, like was he really staying stagnant all those years? So I get it. It makes sense. I'm just like, oh, that's interesting. Like the pieces that it moves around compared to the typical Godzilla origin
original
story.
And what I'm saying is no, it isn't interesting. Because, I'm just kidding. What I'm saying is it makes sense in this movie. And to me, it doesn't betray the first movie. The first movie is what it is. It exists as a whole as what it was. And this is a different movie. And they aren't connected. No one who made this movie had anything to do with the first one. And they can both be really interesting stories that don't need to abide by the exact same rules. And I think they both are stronger for the choices they made in and of themselves. And let's not try to play these games. I'm just saying this generally. It is interesting, but like those conversations don't do it for me. Because you end up sometimes you end up being so beholden to the continuity that you end up making more diluted individual movies because that's just not how these are made. They're not serialized. I would way rather have something that doesn't exactly line up with the other one and get a cool, good thing than have a bunch of things that are all walking on eggshells over their own rules and don't make a strong, thematic point.
Yeah, absolutely. We've all said this a lot, but the more different things Godzilla can be, the better. And so,
Yeah.
not being afraid to just boldly be like, I don't care where in the series this fits. This is just like the story I wanted to tell. That's always okay. I don't want to use the word always because that's too strong. That almost always leads to a better movie. But speaking of the time period, I feel like one of the most striking and salient anti-war points that the film makes is actually right off the bat because, you always hear about Japan's economic miracle and how it recovered by the start of the 1960s, how it became like this important player on the world stage so quickly after its total devastation. And there's so much construction and they boomed. And so, like, in your head, you're like, oh, they bounced back so quickly, which is true in a sense. But, like, when you see how Shikushima and, like, all his neighbors lived for years, like 3, 4, 5 years, in these streets of, like, debris and trash, like, no one had time to clean, nobody had the energy to, like,
or the
change
resources.
it.
Like,
right,
how do
the
you...
resources, yeah. It hits you, like... And that's kind of lucky compared to most civilians caught in a war. They don't recover within 5 years, and that's like, wow, that is how impactful these things are on these countries, and it puts shivers down my spine.
I think that was, yeah. I mean, I think the visuals that they were showing compared to visuals that we're seeing with present day war hit really hard. And I think seeing how, like, even as they were rebuilding, yeah, I guess like when you first see the neighborhood where they're at, you're like, there's no way people could live here. Like, they have to leave. There's no way. Like, there's nothing here. But of course, it's like, where would they leave to? Where would they have to go? So I think seeing him rebuild that, like, just seeing the space that for years they were living in, that really, really, really small space that they were in, like when he comes in from running out of the rain and it's just that small space they're in together.
Right, a bunch of holes in the walls.
Yeah, yeah. And then rebuilding the full home right there. I agree with you. I think it just was I feel like we don't normally see that in movies.
That's
They
so
kind of brush over
satisfying
it.
when he gets the new house, by the way. It's funny that, like, a Japanese movie made me more nostalgic for the American dream than I have been in a long time.
You saw that and you went, wow.
Yeah. I was like, damn, I wish I could do that for my family.
Right. And I think too, just showing like when he's like, I have to take this job because of how much money, it's like, I think seeing that comparison of like, oh, he got all this money by saying, okay, fine, I'll put my life on the line for X amount of cash per week.
Right.
And then showing all the men at the end feeling that way, basically, of like, why do we always get the short end of the stick? Why is it always us who's told, hey, you're supposed to go and die?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a slight pivot, but the movie is shot in a very refreshingly kind of old school way, which I really liked about it. Not old school in that it's like trying to overly look like a movie from the 40s or 50s, but just there was a lot more kind of like Spielbergian master shots that are kind of tell all the stuff, and a lot of people staged in the frame, which things that are kind of more true of earlier movies than now. Now you get a lot more like you have the wide shot and you have the coverage shots and you go over the shoulders and and like you look at, I mean, I said Jaws, but like you look at Jaws and like a lot of scenes are just one shot that is, everyone is staged in the shot and they're moving and the camera's moving and the shot is all the shots. The shot becomes all the different shots that you need for the scene. And this wasn't quite that because Spielberg is the best at it, but it does have a little bit of that flavor, which was actually, I think, really kind of helped because it gave the movie an older school feel that I thought kind of supported its era too. The era it was depicting. I thought that was very nice.
Yeah.
Why do you think we moved away from that type of shooting? Because I feel like it's very satisfying to watch.
I don't know, except that I do think that kind of shooting takes more planning and takes more time on set to do it. And I think on average, everything has less time to film anything now. This is my guess. I don't know. I'm not an expert on this. Everyone, I've said so many disclaimers, but I don't really know. But I would guess it's that. And it also takes a lot of forethought, because if you shoot something like that, there isn't much you can do after shooting in editing to edit, change stuff. So you know, it's like it's so common that you want I think studios especially want maximum flexibility, so they can go, you know what if we paste up this scene? And it's like, well, if it's all in one shot, you kind of can't. Or if it's, you know, in these really complicated, you know, stage blocking, you know, there's not as much you can do. But if it's all in over the shoulders, you can just go, oh, well, what if we just, you know, cut that line, trim the space between this. You know, it's a different way of working that gives you much more flexibility. But there's something so satisfying about seeing people really act and really, you know, like, and you see the environment and you see all the characters and you see, you know, I love it. I love that.
That's what I was going to say. I think, like, coming from the perspective of being an actor, it's always like, it always feels like, yes, this is what we were meant to do. We were meant to, like, have a scene and be able to hold it over a longer period of time. And I think it feels always so much more like a play when they're set up that way, and just pulls you in because you're like, oh, I'm actually, like, in the moment fully with them through this extended period of time. But I am glad that you expressed that, because I was like, are they actually shooting it this way, or is it in my head and I'm making it up and I'm wrong because I don't really know anything about film?
No.
But glad to hear that was something that was happening.
Well, first off, in case I didn't say it, I am not the expert on this. But also, I don't think it's all the way to a Spielberg.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not all the way there. There's still coverage, but it is doing some of that stuff. It has that flavor.
And certainly more so than some of the other Godzilla films, again, where they have, like, more characters, more different groups of people they're showing. They're kind of, like, cutting more quickly between different places and times. But I love this movie.
Me too. I think you're right, Sam, because what you were describing reminds me a lot of, like, how George Lucas shot the prequels, especially episodes 2 and 3. And everyone talks about how he literally had a formula. Like, the shot lists for all the conversation scenes were the same. And he would just shoot the shots, like, without really caring, because he just wanted to get to post-production and, like, put all the pieces of his toy together, which is how a lot of movies are made, is post-forward. Like, because, you know, to allow the executives maximum input is, like, you create all these standardized pieces and then you plug them in. And obviously a lot of these directors of modern movies are better directors than George Lucas, so it's not quite as obvious, but it's the same sort
shots
of principle
fired,
I'm
George.
seeing.
Well,
Great idea, man. Bad director.
Yeah. I don't know. This is going to sound crazy that I'm defending George Lucas more than you, but he clearly has some good directing, at least in certain aspects, because I think American Graffiti and the first Star Wars do have good things. Like, there's good directing in there. I
guess I should say he became a bad director because Star Wars gave him so much stress. He's like, I don't ever want to go through that again.
Yeah, I think he always was more concerned with the technical stuff than the dramatic and storytelling stuff.
Right.
I feel like that's something, was it the host that we were talking about it too, where he, like, is able to convey so much in all of these little side characters too, who you hardly ever see again, but it's like he has so much richness happening in a scene, and then he'll just focus in on one person who's maybe, like, leaving or standing there, who you are only, like, they're maybe not even going to become a main character, but you're just getting so much more out of the scene because they're all filling it so fully. God damn, everyone should be doing this.
I know.
Good
God
filmmaking.
It's so.
This is our film nerdiest discussion since we talked about Return of the Jedi.
It's always Star Wars.
This movie is pretty well made, so it has inspired us to do this. But yeah, the big thing, the other thing I'll say is that it is interesting. Like, when I was in school, I'm such a contrarian that when I was in film school, I was like, well, everyone's doing these, like, well, what if the camera goes shoom and spins around the room and does all this stuff, and I don't like that stuff, so thus I hate camera movement. And what if I did everything so minimalist that there's never anything interesting that happens ever? Was like my approach, and like, you know, in reality,
you just had a camera in the corner of the room and you said, "Go, okay,
done."
that's
Yeah.
it.
Which maybe wasn't good, and shockingly, the stuff I made in college wasn't very good. The Ticket is the thing that's most impressive, to the Spielberg point, or, you know, obviously I think this of John Woo, but I think, like, last night I saw Furiosa, and I felt this way. George Miller's obviously in this camp, where it's like the best is when you have that much intentionality in every aspect of the filmmaking, and it's all supporting the, you know, the dramatic intentions of the story. Because then it's like, I mean, then we're cooking with gas. Like, that's, you know, that's great. And there's some of that in this, where it's like there are, you know, it really does feel like there's a very clear focus. All special effects, all editing, every part of this movie is in support of specifically one character, but everyone's kind of emotional journey. And I always felt like I felt him in all of those action scenes. And that's good. And that's really good. And I think that's, you know, a credit to this movie and its priorities.
All right, let's jump to something a little stupider. Godzilla's rampage on Meginza is very cool. Very scary. I love the little touches, like how the pavement splits and flies up like a seesaw or a broken board when Godzilla
That's
steps
great.
on
I had
it.
the same. I wrote that one down too. I loved that.
Mm-hmm. Same with the spikes popping out when he charges his atomic breath. It's like, how can we make it cooler? It's already really cool when Godzilla glows and hums. But they're just like, bam,
really
bam, bam.
one at a time. Bam, bam, bam. Like, I feel like sometimes they do it at this cadence. Bam, bam, bam. You know, but they were really taking their time.
No, each one pops out like a bellows and then collapses in when he fires it. That was the best part to me. It's like it was like each one was the back of a mechanical pen.
I also think her train moment, I was there for it, even though it's a little like, would she really survive that, you know? But I was really there for it because I feel like just having even again, like the storytelling told just through her in those 2 minutes, right? Of like that moment happening to her, like pushing him out of the way and being blown away by this blowback from his atomic blast or whatever we call it. I think just like, you know, because you're of course like, oh my God, yay, wow, she's amazing, I'm cheering for her, she's traumatized, he has to pick her up off the street, and then she like gets her bearings back and pushes him out of the way to save him, all in those 2 minutes. So I think they're two really effective storytelling for her.
Yeah, like I said, proactive helper. Really cool.
Mm-hmm. Also the blast, like seeing the explosion after he did that, like everything whoosh one direction and then fly back another way. I don't think I've like seen that to that extent, even in thinking about, God, like what was the movie that just came out? You know, the one that won the Oscar, Oppenheimer. You kind of, but I think the way they did it, yeah, I mean, I get why they won the Oscar for this too. I feel like those effects were just devastating too, to think about anyone who would be like her, who would be caught back in that.
Shockwave.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but that moment does happen in Pacific Rim.
It's true. I didn't think about that, but now that you mention it.
All right, well, I have seen it before.
Do I get my nerd card back?
Yeah, we'll give it back.
You already have at least 2 spares, as do I.
Yeah.
I do it. Yeah, I have a whole deck.
Yeah.
No, I thought this scene was, I mean, I think the ship one and this, obviously they were the 2 main, you know, kind of action sequences, but I thought they looked awesome.
Yeah. Noriko, one tough lady, can survive a like 120-foot fall into a river, get up, and then survive a shockwave. Because that's the elephant in the room. Is
right?
She makes it at the end.
Well, so the next movie is actually a superhero film about her and her superpowers. She's a superhero. It's actually, she's joining the Marvel universe. Get ready.
Yes.
Something too about just like the fact that she was wearing these 1940s, like this skirt and these 1940s shoes, and it was like soaking wet. Obviously, it would be because she jumped into that water, but I don't know, just something about it, like similar to you saying, we're used to these like action movies where people like, get like shit happens to them and they're right back up and they're in their like cool, sleek, actiony garb. But seeing her so downtrodden and like in shock, and yeah, him having it was really sad moment.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking because it's right after he's finally starting to open up to the idea of
tell
forming
her.
a family with her.
And you finally are seeing like how they're working together with each other.
Yeah, which I am a slightly bugged by the ending because it's a little overly sentimental, but the rest of the movie is so grim, and I want her to be okay, so I accept that she's okay.
Listen, I cried when they went. There he is. He's in a parachute. Cried. Also, what was it? What's his name? Takibano's reaction to him being alive. Again, that actor in the movie 10 minutes, amazing performance. And so then I cried again, and then I also cried when he got the telegram, and then I also cried when he showed up in the room. So I was there for all
that's
of it.
Good. Yeah, the first time I saw it, I cried a couple times too. It's a hard hitting movie.
Dude, the last two movies we've been watching, just teary eyed.
I think that ending where Norco's alive, I think we needed a flashback, kind of like how we get the flashback to the guy being like, and here's the ejector button, where she's alive, and then we flash to her getting blown back by the blast and flying like 80 feet back and then landing, like breaking through the window and into like the marshmallow factory and landing softly.
Yeah, or the mattress store.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God. Well, that'll all be this is good fodder for like, again, the next movie that they'll be making. They'll be sure to include this as a key part of her superhero origin story. Would you guys, okay, yes, no, you guys would die and break your bones if you fell into water from that high, right? Like, would any of you land? I'm notorious for landing in a belly flop, so I'd for sure like break my face and have an extreme pain, and I would die.
It didn't feel like she was falling that long. It was weird. It was like, it felt like it was really far.
Exaggeration.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Why do you 150 feet from what?
I said 150 feet might have been an exaggeration. I just named like a number off the top of my head.
You guys, okay, but what is the tallest drop water slide you've ever been off of? Okay, it's like 10 feet. Okay, so you're telling me times that by 5 at minimum? No way. I'd be dead. I'm good for you guys if you'd be alive, but I would not land it.
I was surprised actually because I thought maybe she was going to die in that scene because
impact. Yeah.
I mean, this is not a criticism. This is fine, but I did have the thought she falls out of the train and lands in the water and then comes up and then Godzilla drops the train and I was like, oh my God, she's gonna get crushed by a train. That's insane. Like what and then it falls like 60 feet behind her. And I was like, oh, all right. Yeah, we didn't really, that was a little bit of a not a convenience, but it was like clearly they weren't setting it up for her to die, and that was just me reading into it. But that would have been the thing to kill her if she survived the fall. It's having a train dropped on her.
No, I thought that was going to kill her for sure. And in my head, the split second before it didn't land on top of her, I went, these fucks are brutal. Holy crap. That would have been, really.
All right, you guys want to hear the FAA report on the survival limits of human tolerance to impact velocity in water?
I do.
Yeah, because I need another nerd card to add to my deck before this episode ends. So tell me right now.
Not everyone will survive this, but the upper limits are a 186-foot free fall. So you could
shut the fuck up.
Fall 180 feet into the water and survive potentially.
Water. Wait. 186.
Yeah.
But what are the limits of survivability if you fall and then have a train dropped on you? Is
Then it drops
it's
to
just
0.
none. Yeah. Survivability drops sharply to 0%.
Yeah.
You guys, no worries. I'm on a feet to stories calculator on the internet right now, which I didn't know exists. This says it's averaging about 10 feet, 18 stories. Okay, so I live on a 5th floor walk up in New York City. Okay, so that's really high. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Thank
if
you
you
for
had
this
a deep
stat.
lake behind you, you could potentially live if you jumped
Okay,
into
this
it.
is going to be my fun fact for any party I go to moving forward.
Well, there you go.
I think I'm going to just take a wild guess and say that that's survivability. I think even half that would be bad and hurt a lot.
Yeah,
Your
you'd probably break
spine
a lot of
or your
bones.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, I know what they're saying online, and that I'd probably be fine, but I don't plan on jumping 100 feet into any bodies of water anytime soon.
You guys, sorry, I just have to tell one other fact while we're here. And I don't know if this website is accurate, but it says outdoors.com something. A number of people have survived falls of 100 and 200 feet to 200 feet without substantial injury. There are 3 people who have survived falls of 10,000 feet. One, including an airline passenger who fell into the jungle after a plane tore apart. Okay, this is some wild shit that we are learning. Thank you for this brief
The
aside.
human body is amazing.
I heard you got to land in like a pizza roll, land and roll right into that.
I don't know if it's true of that height.
Because you could probably land on your head and just snap your neck.
Yeah. Again, I think you got to use your legs like a car crumple zone and just accept that they're going to break into a million pieces, but protect them vital organs.
And this has been Mythbusters, Godzillavangelists edition.
Oh my god, I'm missing it, Busters.
All right, we gotta hustle. So let's talk about the ending sequence.
Yeah,
I love the lead up to it, where the kid is like, "Let me go. I need to do this. I need to prove that I can be strong." And the captain says, "Not having been to war is something to be proud of." It's a great movie line. I love it.
great movie line. Fantastic. I agree.
Yeah. And that's right after, the men are like, let's come back home. Let's fight for each other. This isn't about Japan. This is about us and our families. It's a nice moment to hit home what's important.
I think also too when the scientist was like, "This isn't a mission to die. Like this is a mission to live." I wanted to support the man, but I was a little like.
You seem optimistic, and he was.
He has to know he's lying, but I guess he ultimately wasn't. But I was like, this guy's maybe pushing it a little bit.
Yeah, and the final battle is so involving because I like how there's the little things go wrong that allow for fun surprises and improvisation. Like Godzilla shows up too quickly, and he manages to
I appreciated that because I was like, of course he would. I loved seeing our main character fly that airplane around. I was like, here's his talent. All right, here we go. He can do it. I also love where a part of the storytelling is, and now the tugboats are going to save us. I like that as a plot point.
Yes, I will say this is only something that bothered me and 10 other people, I'm sure. But as a Godzilla fan, they reuse a bunch of classic Godzilla cues in this movie, but some of them are not equivalent to what's happening. There's a part during the Ginza Rampage where they're playing the main theme from the original Mothra versus Godzilla, but part of that theme has Mothra's theme in it, and she's not in this movie. And then,
hey, busted! Oh boy, are they busted!
And then during the final battle, they play the instrumental version of the Kong chant from Godzilla vs. King Kong, and I'm like, what? This has nothing to do with what you're doing right now. So if you recognize the original uses of the music and what Ufukube intended for the theme, it's kind of funny, but I'm sure that, as I said, it only bothered me and 10 other people.
Ryan, I guess though that's how they keep it under that cool 15 million budget. They go, you know what, we're just gonna kind of pull from wherever we want and
I
stick
mean,
with that.
that actually I think is a reasonable criticism. I would abide by that criticism more than it breaks the series continuity thing. Which, in case it wasn't clear, I don't care about that.
But Ryan, for calling that out, congratulations! I will gift one more nerd card to your deck.
Thank you. I've almost got the whole collection.
That is an impressive and very, kudos for that call out. That's a really good one.
Is this a deck like of playing cards or like Magic the Gathering cards where it'll
It's
be like
definitely Magic the Gathering cards.
No, I envisioned it like a Pokemon set. I'm about to play my nephew, and he's going to school me.
Too.
My 5-year-old nephew is going to roast me at Christmas playing Pokemon. And then my brother called him out for cheating. My brother was like, because his cards are all in Japanese, my brother was like, James, you're lying to your aunt. This is not what this card says it does. He kept being like, 80 points damage. So funny.
Classic little kid.
Classic. Smart though, good for him.
Yeah.
So this nerd deck that we each have. So you just like got.
Well, I don't
you
have
just
one,
added,
Sam. I think you forgot.
Joanna, I think you do.
You at least have a few cards in your deck.
No, I have no. See, you guys, I have the theater nerd one. So mine's like just a different set that you'd have to like go buy at GameStop, GameSpot, whichever one. But anyways, yeah. What were you asking, Sam?
No. I think we have to describe what cards we have in our deck, because I think like I could see recognizing misuse of the Godzilla music, it being like a special card. I don't know what the stats on it are, but like I could just see you just sadly drawing it from a deck and sticking it in your hand. Like I guess I have this one now.
And you have to play them. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh!
What are the cards in the theater nerd deck?
Speaks about quote unquote the fringe without like giving context, and it's just unknown. It's just known that like you're talking about fucking Scotland, you're talking about Edinburgh, like you're not talking about anything else. Also, going to see Wicked as an adult and wearing all green, but then being like, yeah, it's not the same. But that is one card you could play in that.
I had an idea for I think legally, I think this is enough of a gray area that you might be able to get away with this. But I had this thought. I was like, man, when are we going to get like a John Wick musical? And then I was like, oh my God, what if, hear me out. If they called it Wicked and spelled it just like Wicked. like, I think legally they could do it. I'm just saying like,
that would be amazing.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And you could just trick so many people into going to see it. You get two built-in audiences.
So good. You'd have to release it. Do you release it the same weekend as Wicked the movie is coming out, just to try to trick some people on the internet into buying it?
Yeah,
you have to.
And now that I'm thinking about it, it would be really great if basically other people sang, but John Wick never does, and it would just be like a long verse sung by someone else, and then like in the song all that John Wick says is yeah.
That's good.
That's it. And then just back to them.
I don't want any of this cut from this episode, because I think as we're getting near the end, the fans just need something to chew on for the rest of their lives.
I have no beef with any of this. I was just going to quickly say, as a teenager, I wrote a musical version of Alien that I'd love to put on, except all the songs were parody songs of existing music. So,
God, the things you learned about your friends after 10 plus years of chatting on a podcast together.
We just added so many cards to each of our decks just now.
Yes, so many.
Yeah, this is just one song. Was when the Chestburster emerged, it was "Don't Hunt Me Down" to the tune of "Don't Bring Me Down" by Electric Light Orchestra, and you can
okay. Send us the lyrics.
All right, but yeah, the final battle is super cool. I love the emergence of the barotrauma scarred Godzilla. It's all this bloated white flesh, suitably
Oh,
disgusting.
he looked
And then his head getting
disgusting.
blown up.
He looked really narrow and thin in like a great way. Yeah, the head blown up. Have they blown up his head
Gruesome.
before? They had to have,
No,
right?
this is the
That
most
was,
gruesome thing that's happened to Godzilla easily.
yeah, he really, yeah, I don't know. It was gross.
It sure was.
But did you guys expect, did you think that he died? That he committed suicide for that?
I kind of suspected something was happening because they do hint at the ejector seat. Because in the scene before, Takibana says, "Now let me show you something," and then it cuts, and I'm like,
Yeah, but I
"Okay,
thought when
look
I
at
thought he was just
that."
seeing me, I'm like, well, more bomb stuff we showing him, and they just decided we don't need to keep that.
I did think Noriko was dead, so I was caught off guard. But
Yeah.
Just to combine my two fandoms, that whole scene when he's showing off the capabilities of the jet, when he goes, and this part I'm particularly proud of. See here, an ejector seat. That's
I'm just gonna cue with his stiff British upper lip, trying to convince
Perfect.
Bond not to commit suicide. You've got to live, Bond. You see?
Bond, you have so much to live for. You don't do it. Just please. You have an adopted family. Just stay alive. Use the ejector seat.
Stay alive.
Don't,
Now
James
you're
Bond,
turning
don't
into
kill
Obi-Wan.
Use the Force. I'm saying use the Force.
Everything about that scene is just about perfect. All the tension and escalation. What I was going to say is that, and I mean other parts of the movie, but especially how Godzilla dies and the little glimpse of his flesh at the end. Super inspired by GMK, which the director openly admits. He's like, this was as much about GMK as it was the original movie, which is another feather in GMK's cap. But I can definitely see the parallels. It's obviously not like a ripoff or direct homage. It's very much its own thing, but with especially those elements and other parts of the story and how it feels, you can definitely see the connection. Or at least I could. Could you guys? I'm testing your your Godzilla recall here.
I did not catch it upon watching, but now that you mention it, fascinating to look and think back on. Sam?
All I have to say is GMK.
Oh boy. Alright. Well, it was. They even had the little fish chewing on Godzilla's flesh
I forgot about the
chunk
little
at
fish.
the end, like the fish chewing on the heart.
Ugh.
I remember liking that movie, but I think the three things I recall just right now are Fish Heart, Fake Journalist, and Suicide Cave Man. And that's it.
Yeah,
but I remember
liking. It's a great one. It's right up there. But yeah, I know there are some hints for a sequel. There's that. There's the weird bruise on Noriko. But I kind of hope they just
Yes.
let it
Okay.
stand
Wait.
on
That
its
was
own.
okay. It went so fast that I was like, "Was her hair just like in a funky spot?" I didn't recognize fully that it was a bruise. Wait. Okay. Fucking. So it is going to be her superhero origin story movie. I cannot wait. She is going to be the lead.
Secretly tied into Venom because it was like a black stain. So yeah, there we go.
Wait. So she's in the movie coming out around Halloween. I can't wait.
She's the new Venom.
I hope. Wait. So we don't know for sure if they have plans for a sequel.
No, the director is like, I could make another one, but like it's not like he's dying to. But it made a lot of money, so I don't know. Maybe Toho will push one into production.
Make it happen. Yeah. Fingers crossed.
As I said, I kind of hope they leave it on its own and just do something different next. But if he can pull it off and make it a worthy sequel, not just torment Noriko. But
if it's not going to be as good as this one, then trash it. Get it out of here.
That's a really hard criteria to hold any sequel to. You'd be like, if it's not better than this one, forget about it. Why even make Toy Story 2?
So, if this is somehow your first episode, welcome. This is how we judge things as Godzillavangelists.
Woohoo! Welcome to the party.
Yes, welcome.
Yeah,
We're almost
right
closed. Yes, so as Godzillavangelists, it is our holy duty to assign each movie its proper place in Godzilla heaven, hell, or purgatory. Hell being the worst, heaven the best, purgatory in the middle. I'll start. This is one of our more obvious and expected choices, but I have no good cause to go against the grain. So this is an easy heaven. As a film, arguably the highest quality Godzilla production ever. Dead heat with the original, but certainly stunning how much it gives it a run for its money. There are still other movies I like better, just personally in my heart, but in terms of quality, it's hard to imagine you naming anything better than this other than the original. It makes me feel, it makes me think, it makes me thrill. It's the whole package. I can only nitpick, which I've already done, so I won't here. What about you guys?
I feel similarly. I was thinking about the original a lot too. Makes sense given the time period, etc. But kind of want to give it a rewatch and see how it compares to this one. But I do think this is like the strongest film entry that we've seen to the franchise. And I think what Sam was speaking to at the beginning, just of like a simple, clear, effective storyline. Like right off the bat, they're like, this is an underdog story. It's a story about a family. We're keeping it very small in terms of the characters, and we're really going to focus on all of them, make them individual characters. They'll each have, their own little arc in addition to our main character. I thought the acting was incredibly strong across the board. Visual effects, incredibly strong. And I think, too, Godzilla was also very present and front and center throughout the whole time, because sometimes I think we also get these stories that I more lean towards, right, where they're these like smaller kind of, focusing on just a few characters or a family, but Godzilla might not come in until like 40, 50 minutes into the film. So I think for like being a Godzilla film as well, he really also felt present, a big threat. He was terrifying, and he looked good and was just like a key plot point the whole time. So yeah, heaven for me, and excited to this is a film that I'm genuinely excited to tell other people and my pals and my parents and my brother and such to make sure they watch.
Yeah, your mom will be so excited that she can finally talk about it with you.
She'll be so excited. You're so right.
This is a heaven for me. I agree with everything that both of you said. I think that I would say that as a film, I think it might be the best one. I think that it's really, if you just divorce all impact and just, I think the first one has obviously the impact and just bonus points for coming up with such a great metaphor. But I think as a movie overall, I think this one's actually cleaner and stronger in a lot of ways. But I don't know if it's my favorite. It's certainly up there. It's really good. It's a very just very solid.
Yeah.
It was really, it's good in a way that I haven't felt about any of the other ones, because even the ones I've really enjoyed, like GMK, I don't go, that's clean. Like this is clean. It's just like it's so clear from the beginning to the end. So yeah, not much to say about it except it's good. And what a cool way to end our viewing of all the Godzillas.
Yeah.
And on a nice high note.
This is the bittersweet trivia. This is the last Godzilla movie that we have to cover, unless they surprise drop one on us next month. So yeah, this is a long journey.
This is how Ryan was planning it. He started this podcast this many years ago and perfectly timed our execution of watching everything so that we could end on this one.
Yes, I know there's going to be a great one in 2023.
I know,
just gotta hold
coming.
out.
Just got to have a year delay in one of our posts. It's fine though. That's all part of the plan.
All right. Well, I guess, Joanna, you and I each get to draw the Seen Every Godzilla Movie card, which is a super powerful card for the nerd deck.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's a win right there, instant win.
Wait. But we still have two more in the series to watch, right?
The only thing we have left to watch is the end of Monarch, which is probably our next episode. But if that's already come out, then this is it. All that's left is our finale.
Holy shit.
We've seen every film.
But just for the fans and for myself, anytime a new one drops, we'll kind of be warming up that old Yeti mic, right?
I hope so. I think this is something we're going to settle for sure in the finale. We'll talk about what our plan is. But yeah,
Okay.
I don't imagine this will be the last ever. I don't think so.
Yeah, that would make me really sad, and I don't think I want to process that.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. We're almost at the finish line here,
And also, just want to say thank you to anyone who has listened to any of the episodes, who has worked their way through maybe a majority, or just thank you, because that's pretty cool and pretty crazy.
Yeah, I'll save the big breakdown and emotional speech for the finale, but very much thank you for being with us so long and letting us be a fun part of your life. What I was going to say
That should
is... What?
No, you sound like you have something more important. I was going to say that should be the final merch that we sell. Should just be a nerd card of I listen to every episode of Godzilla.
That would be great. That would be cheap too. But anyway, so we still need more letters and reviews. We still got a couple episodes to do, and then in the finale, I have collected a few closeout messages from former guests, and I'd love to keep doing that from you, the audience, too. So if you have anything, even if you've written in before and we've read you before, if you have a message for us for our finale, I'd love to have a whole bunch of those. So write us for the first time or the 10th time. I'd love to see it either way. Today we have a YouTube comment from Jeff Persinger. I hope I'm saying that right. I know I'm a million years late, but I just discovered this podcast, and I'm loving it. Thanks for having this idea 6 years ago. You're welcome, Jeff.
You're welcome, Jeff. Thank you, Ryan. And, yeah.
If you haven't seen our live show video, what are you doing? Go see it. That's still there. It's wonderful. I watched a little bit of it the other day just for fun myself.
So fun.
Yeah. You guys got anything to add?
I was just going to say, if you watch the live show, you get to finally see what our faces look like.
That's true. I mean,
Wow,
we've seen the
that's
cartoon
true.
versions of us, but yeah, if you want to see
Right,
us,
that's true.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when I was growing up listening to Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me on NPR. I'm drawing a card, by the way, as I say this.
Yeah, me too.
And hearing Peter Sagal for my entire life, and then finally seeing what his face looked like 5 years ago, and being like, that is not what I pictured when I heard that man's disembodied voice for so long. And
Wow,
and
wait, I
that
just looked
can
him
happen.
up. That's not what I pictured either.
Yeah,
Ira
that can happen
Glass,
to you,
on the
though.
other hand, looks exactly
Wow.
like he sounds.
Yeah, so if you thought that Ryan looked exactly like Fabio from the romance novel covers, you would be right. That is what he looks like.
Exactly.
Thanks. I actually record all podcasts bare-chested and oiled up. It's in secret. I'm
Yeah.
revealing right at the end.
Another reason to watch the live show.
Another reason.
Well, unless you guys have anything to add, I think we'll say goodbye for today.
No. Yeah, just thanks, Jeff, for the comment. Thanks all for listening.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time.
So see you next time. Take care and keep spreading the word of Godzilla.
That was a bad one. That sounded like a cat. Oh well.
Godzillavangelists, a Geek Stew Network podcast, is brought to you by me, Ryan Sargent, and my friends Joanna Brodecki and Sam Schlenker. This episode was edited by Brogan Malloy. All our incredible music is composed by Robert Mai, and our wonderful artwork is drawn by Cassidy Stone. Special thanks to our families, friends, and the wonderful artists who made the movies we talked about today. Godzillavangelists is a satirical, critical work not affiliated or endorsed by Toho, Legendary Pictures, or anyone behind the Godzilla series. Visit our website at godzillavangelists.com. We're also on Twitter at GodzillaCast and Instagram at GodzillaVangelists. If you prefer to listen to us online, we have a YouTube channel. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you join us next time. In the meantime, keep spreading the word of Godzilla.